Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo.
Hello, I'm Sonia Nahardeen, broadcasting live, coming to you live on Kalalloo Network and Culture Television. And we are also being featured on the Muse Show on Tempo Network. To learn more, go to www.kanerootsartgallery.com. Welcome. Welcome to our new show, our brand new show, and it's called Art Over Bush Tea. And significantly bush tea, because throughout the Caribbean, bush tea is made in so many different islands. So I thought it was more important that we not do typical tea, but we do bush tea. I'm going to ask one of our featured artists, actually we have two featured artists with us today, Nyaris, and we have Stephanie Shalana Brown. But I'm going to ask Nyaris to talk about how she actually made the bush tea today.
Typical bush tea, you boil your water and you steep your greens. So there is lemongrass, mint, and basil leaf in there, steep. And there's some cinnamon and ginger as well.
Delicious.
Yes, you have to have ginger in it. I have to have ginger in it.
Yeah, zing.
I think one of the important things also too in creating art over bush tea, it's also seeing ourselves sort of being like bush women. And I think all three of us have very specific heritage, and it comes together in a culmination. For myself, being born in Guyana, and migrating to the United States at a very young age, and then having a huge influence of American culture. So I straddle Guyanese American culture. And we have Nyaris, who is originally born in Dominica and came here also at a very young age. And I think for her also, like myself, has straddled a culture from Dominica and a culture from St. Croix. And also I think, even if she came here at a young age, I think the lifestyle of the Virgin Islands has also given her a huge influence. We also have Stephanie Shalana Brown, who goes back, her whole family goes back pre-emancipation. Actually, when I asked her how far does it go back, I said 4 generations, and then she said pre-emancipation. And I said, oh man, I can't even count those generations. So it's really a culmination, a blending of the three of us together. So I think the bush tea symbolizes that in so many different ways, so many different ingredients. So the conversation today is going to be a blending, just like the herbs in the pot, but just a blending of so much of our own different cultures put together. So welcome everyone, welcome to Art Over Tea. Art over bush tea specifically.
Bush tea.
Ladies, you can help yourself. Pour tea whenever you're free to do that.
I love me some bush tea.
You got to turn it on.
Oh,
So,
make sure it's on.
hold the lid.
You know, it's very interesting that in many different cultures, and when I think about the British having high tea and how we in the Caribbean, we took on the tea drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think we've just taken tea to a whole nother level.
Haven't we?
Yeah. So we're going to start today talking about what has inspired each of you in terms of your artwork. Shalana, you've been doing a lot of visual art in terms of photography, and Nyaris, I have seen a huge body of your work over the past 4 years that I've known you. But I just want to know what has inspired each of you, or if you've had a role model, or one day you were in a museum and you came across a particular piece of artwork. And particularly for myself, growing up in New York, you know, the Metropolitan Museum was my art gallery. And I was saying to you yesterday that the first American woman that influenced me in art was Georgia O'Keeffe. So I wanted to know from both of you if you had a particular person or a particular style that influenced you in your work.
You first. Whatever. Well, art for me is magic. I'll start that way. The moment that I discovered art was a magical moment. And so every time I make art, it takes me back to that moment. And that is what actually propels me to make it. So I'd say that's what inspired me. But that magical moment actually came from my mom, who asks me to draw for her because she says she doesn't draw, right? But my mom one day, actually, I remember, and I don't know, it might have been a dream, honestly, because when I asked her about it, she's like, I don't remember that. Are you sure? I don't know that. I remember clearly some memory from wherever it came, like my mom tracing a dress, a girl on carbon paper back then, right? We had carbon copies of a girl in a yellow polka dot dress, and somehow it just appeared on the other sheet, and for me that was like magic. Wow. I still remember this image. I can literally draw you this image, this memory that my mom says she doesn't remember, but I remember. So that was my inspiration moment, and I take that with me almost every time I make art. You know, to bring an image out of a blank canvas is magic. And I was reading a history book yesterday, and the first couple of paragraphs literally confirmed that for me, because I thought, you know, maybe I'm the only one who felt that way. And it literally confirmed the magical experience of engaging and creating in art. So yeah.
You know, speaking about that, and even back then where Caribbean women might not have considered themselves artists, but I do remember my mother making her own patterns. So now that I really think of it, that was an art form.
Yes.
To not have a ready-made pattern, you know, you measure your chest, your waist, your length to make an empire dress or something. That was really an art form, to make a pattern from scratch. So, you know, here we were in a community of women who were creating in an art form by sketching. So Shalana, I will ask you next.
It goes back to art. We had like a brief discussion yesterday, and it goes back to what we call art. Because most times when you think of art, traditionally, I always thought art was like painting. And now art is found in so many different forms. It's found in photography, it's found in fabric art. It's just performance art as well. And not even per se dancing. I'm seeing people utilizing different forms to talk about their identity or whatever they want to express. So the meaning of art has evolved. And so maybe we were doing it all along, but it wasn't traditional. And we don't give ourselves credit enough for or reverence to our ancestors for what they've been doing all along, and now it's just putting a label on it now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, that's very, very true. It's very interesting you talk about your photography. There's a piece of yours that I was very enthralled by, that I would say that actually moved me. And it was
Flamboyant.
the flamboyance. And I think it was because it was this very still moment in time. She had my favorite flower on her, and then there was a feather over her, and feathers to me are very significant, like when a feather is left in front of your door, or all of a sudden there's no bird, but you just see a feather being left. Native Americans just use a lot of feathers in their costumes. So with that particular piece, and hopefully we're going to have it up on the screen, tell us, what was your creative drive behind that piece? And I'm very interested, is flamboyant also your favorite, one of your favorite flowering trees?
I think at the time when I did that piece, the flamboyance were at its full bloom and it just like takes over the island. Like they're very vivid. It's like they're not even red, they're not orange. It's just like a very vivid orangey red, and it's everywhere. And I think like seen and unseen, you drive by it all the time, and you may not recognize that it has some sort of power over your thought process. And I had did my first art series called The Madras That Binds Alawi. The Madras Binds Alawi was, I wanted to take what we call ordinary women, whom I don't think are ordinary at all, but they don't have any, they're not political persons, they're not celebrities, but they are the backbone of our society. They're teachers, they're mothers, they're the women that you see at your after school programs, they're young girls in high school. And not to negate the men's role in our society, but in my family, I just felt that women propelled and our identity the most, and made like really big decisions for the family. So I just hold like women with high esteem. So not to negate men.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Especially too, I think culturally sometimes we come from a matriarchal family, but in that incredible balance with the mother, there's also the father. I came from a household where my mother had a very powerful presence in everything that we did, but my father was constantly present, and he was always quiet.
Yes,
but believe me, in his quietness, he had a lot to say.
Yes,
A lot of presence.
Yes.
A lot of presence.
Yes, he did. Mine's as well. So the a lot of my work has like a reoccurring theme. It has madras involved, and it has head ties involved, and the theme is usually women.
Good. I'm going to turn to a piece of yours, Night Hours, and that piece is called. What's my other piece? When Life Gives You Lemons.
Yes.
Yes. So why don't we talk about When Life Gives You Lemons?
Well, before I start, I'd like to say what my work is actually about. What I try to do in my work is to present this whole idea of colonialism and what it has given us, right, in those pieces.
Yes.
What have we taken out of this experience that we have? How can we make it a positive for us? How can we build on the foundation that we have been given in almost recent memory? And I say that because we know a lot of times we like to just say we started from slavery, but we know we go beyond that.
Yes.
Unfortunately, a lot of us do not know the beyond. And just starting from what we do know, how can we build upon that and become a vibrant, positive force in our society,
Right.
and get beyond the negativity that has been perpetuated on us? So When Life Will Give You Lemons is about that. It's also about, I do a lot of different things. It's also about this kind of consumerism. I like things. Who doesn't like things?
Yes.
Love things. Jewelry, cars, homes, fabric, and clothing. And I thought about that in terms of how much I like things compared to my relationship with.
Keep going.
In terms of my relationship with my children and my family as when I became a mother. You know, like when you were growing up, I don't know about you, but if I broke something, it was like, oh, you know.
Yes, the world was coming to an end.
Exactly. And I think, our parents didn't have much. So you didn't want to be breaking bowls and cups when they, didn't have much. I had to go buy it again. But for us now, these things are a dime a dozen. And so for me, I thought about that. And I know it's a long come around, but I put, what is it that builds, that is my mortality, right? How do we become immortal? We can become immortal through our descendants, right? The people who come from us. And I thought, oh, what's more important, my children or these things? So I started painting these things.
Yes.
Because a lot of times we pass these things on to our children and say, here, you give them the little trinket, you give them the little,
Absolutely.
baby clothes, like your mother said, well, your baby clothes
Yes.
pass on to your baby, right?
Now, you hold on to that thought, and we will be right back. Again, I'm Sonia Nahardeen, broadcasting live on the Kalalloo Network and Culture Television, and we're being featured on the Muse Show on Tempo Network. To learn more, please go happily to www.canerootsartgallery.com. We look forward to seeing you and engaging with you more. Thank you. For our first time doing this part, it went very well. So my Hi, and we're back live with the fabulous women in the studio. We have the wonderful Stephanie Shalana Brown and Nyaris Walker, and we're so privileged to have both of them. Nyaris, also because Nyaris's exhibit is currently here at the Kalalloo Art Gallery. So welcome back to our tea time with Art Over Bush Tea, which we are enjoying thoroughly, and we're having the wonderful aromas of the lemongrass and the ginger that is stimulating us, I think, in our conversation also. So welcome back, and let's continue talking about our pieces, because I really want the audience to be able to interact with your work and to understand what you've done with your work. I'm going to show two more of your pieces before we get to where are you now in your careers. So I wanted to go, Shalana, to one of your photography pieces. I think that's all photography, but specifically a piece that you've done in black and white. It's your black and white piece where the woman has her fan and she's in Madras. But what I love about that piece, it's a different layers, because Madras has its highs and its lows in terms of the imprint of the color. So you look at the different things that are happening in that black and white piece. Tell me again, what is the name of that piece?
Market Lady.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Market Lady, yes.
Yes, Market Lady. So I shot that piece. I worked in conjunction with the Division of Cultural Education, and at that time, I'm currently working there. At that time, it was under the directorship of, it escapes me right now. I guess I'm getting a little nervous. Dr. Bryson, sorry. Yeah, it escapes me, I'm a little nervous. So Dr. Bryson, whom everybody knows, she's a culture bearer here in the Virgin Islands through music and again, just having general knowledge of our customs and traditions. And she had asked me, because she was putting on a program called Sarah and Abby, and it's a play using our dialect.
Yes, yes.
Very strongly, because usually when we get into certain atmospheres, we turn on our American dialect.
Right.
But like if you are from,
Switch it.
yeah, you can code switch. But if you are from like the Virgin Islands and we can buck up on somebody who can speak like you. Like if you're not from here, you wouldn't understand anything we were saying.
What's that term called? Buck up?
Buck up, like when me and you meet and we buck up.
I just wanted the audience to get that new terminology.
And so I was so happy Miss Bryson gave me the opportunity because they were actually recording it. It's like a play, and they did it like how Tyler Perry does the play to movie, and they were in full regalia, and they were also in character because I know the two women who played it. They're educators here in our education system, but I got them in character where they didn't even come out when they were taking the picture. They were no longer like themselves. They were Sarah and Addie. And one woman who speaks very properly in American lingo, like she was just like taking on this like very, traditional 1878 kind of dialect, and women weren't so dainty at those times. You know what I mean? A little bit more rugged and rigid. And I just had the opportunity to capture what it would be like if I met a woman of that time. And so it was beautiful because it's not something I staged. It was like, I'm here to photograph the presence of somebody else.
But I have to say, Shalana, in your images of all the women, all of the pieces we're going to show to them, I just feel that they carry such dignity.
Yes.
They're all queens in their own essence. Younger versions of it and older versions, and I think the market woman, she just has such regalia about her in her dress and her face and her shoulders and the way she holds her fan, that I think that is such a strong photograph of dignity. So I really love that piece also in black and white.
Yeah, I just like when I was having a conversation with you, Sonia, I grew up between the Black Sylvia establishment here in Christiansted, Town St. Croix. And I went back that day to like where I grew up because I no longer reside there. And I just recall that there was like a lady, there were several of them in the area, but there was a lady who lived literally across the street from me. And I saw her house is abandoned right now, so it really made me sad. But she wore my dress like every day and she sold peanuts, she made lasagna, she made, like, I never went to the store and bought like American candy. Like we always go to people's houses and buy like Lindy. We never went to the store per se. We business stayed around like the community.
Yeah, you
so
got from people's homes.
Right. So I would go to her and I would buy my candies or whatever. And I remember she used to walk in town and, try to sell to tourists and stuff. And she was a heavy woman. She was tall. She balanced the tray on her head.
Yes.
And we, for entertainment and for courting purposes, we wrap our hair in dresses with different points. But when you're selling something, you wrap kata and you wrap it like this. And she always had like an embedded on top of her. And I was just like yeah. I was just like mesmerized, and like how she did it. She walked really upright. And then for somehow, some way, it was just strange. I was just thinking about it last night that we didn't have American TV per se that much. Like MTV and BET didn't like really come around at that time. And then like when it did, like the perception of beauty like kind of changed. So it was like my cornrows weren't cute anymore. Me wearing my dress wasn't cute anymore. It was like a different American personality, and regalia was like starting to like take over who our identity was. And so I kind of like felt bad because I started to think like that's not cool. She's not pretty. You know what I mean? Like that. I don't want to wear my dress. Like, why would I wear that? I want to wear like American clothing and stuff like that. And I thought about that last night, like how our identity shifted so much with like media. But
that's influence all the culture.
From that piece, I want to go to good stock because I feel in this conversation, from what you're identifying, is that a strong belief that we're good stock. And I stand very grounded that I'm from good stock. I mean, when you go to my website and you click on my picture and you see my family, I am strongly from good stock. I feel that I stand on very, very great shoulders. When my Angelou has something very important that I identified with when I was a teenager. She says, when you walk into a room, you carry every teacher that had a kind word, any word spoken to you by your grandparent. You are never alone, because when you walk into the room, you carry all of those people with you. So I just want to go into your piece, good stuff.
So, I guess in this case it would be a double entendre, because good breeding stock, like you said, we have to be proud of who we are. We have to walk with pride, walk with our heads high, and not be ashamed to be Black, to be Caribbean, to be woman, to be whatever your identification is. However, this piece came from an exhibition called Animism and the Colonial Experience. It was curated by Janet Cook-Rutnick, really with referencing the use of...
Curated by whom?
Janet Cook-Rutnick.
Okay.
It came out of, it was a show really talking about the Senegal cattle and just animals, but also in terms of its connection to colonialism. And the piece, I made it out of coax cable. Right after the hurricane, I gathered a lot of coax cable and I built this 8 by 10 foot piece. And in a short matter of days, actually. And so I like to say that because people always want to know, like, how long did it take you to make a piece?
No, you were forcing. You were inspired.
Yeah,
and you just stayed with it.
Exactly. I worked on it all the time, and it was like I didn't do anything else. And I mean, literally, when I was done, my hands were swollen because I just continued at it. However, the piece has to do with when during slavery, the breeding of our strong, good stock Black men and our strong, good stock Black women to make strong, good stock slaves. You understand? And that was where that idea came from. The breeding of the Senegal is a cattle that it's very strong immune system. It's not like susceptible to a lot of the other factors that regular cattle is susceptible
and it's synonymous with the Virgin Islands.
Right. It actually was bred here in the Virgin Islands. By, I believe, the Lowette's family. And so that is where that piece came from. And it was truly, truly inspired. I remember walking down the road and seeing the coax cable on the street months after the hurricane, because this piece was done in 2018.
Okay.
Late in 2018, I believe, or March of 2018 is when it was done. And I was like, it was literally calling to me. It's like you were saying, there's like something calling to me to pick it up, but I'm terrified, right? They told us not to don't pick it up. You're not supposed to touch the coax cables on the street. And I'm like, nobody's doing anything with it. Ultimately, I was able to get permission from where they were dumping it to pick up some coax cable from there, and came about with the sculpture.
Because of all the devastation.
Yes, and the reason too is I really, really felt like I wasn't contributing to the rebuilding of our community. Because I was stuck in the house watching children. I was watching my sister-in-law's children with my children.
I remember.
Right, and because my brother, she had to work. She worked in a prison, right, as a nurse. So, and my brother was not. He was stuck off island. So I was, and and my mother was stuck off island. So I also had to deal with my elderly father. So I was helping my family, but I didn't feel like I was helping.
But
the community.
You were.
I was, but I wanted to do something for me, collecting the coax cable, repurposing the coax cable, building that sculpture helped me to was cathartic for me.
Yeah. No, it's I remember that piece and I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. Actually, when I saw it, I have to tell you, we'll talk about another person when I was going to the museums at the Met. I was always influenced by Alexander Calder. I loved his metal sculptures. I never read much about Calder's biography or anything, but I always was like, wow, how did he make these sculptures? Gigantic sculptures. And then he would make these mobiles, you'd have this one piece and then he would create a balance with pieces dangling from it. I mean, you remember a mobile from when your son was a baby and hung over the crib.
Yes.
But just to imagine a huge metal sculpture being a mobile. So when I saw that piece, actually reminded me Alexander Calder using metal. Well, she doesn't. I always tell her how impressed I am with her work. She is so diverse in her work, and
She
that's.
does fashion as well, you know. But
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
But when I saw your piece, and I never said that to you back then, but that's why I loved it so much. It reminded me of Calder. And there are other people who've done other works in metal, but again, in my own limitations of what I've been exposed to, but I'm just thinking about my beginnings of what I was exposed to in metal.
And you can only reference your own experience.
Yes, absolutely. Shalana, do you want to, oh, I know what I want to get to. Where do you think you are now? Because I know we have a couple more pieces to talk about. Where are you now in your careers? It's very interesting. And Shalana, we didn't talk about the two of you, how you two met. But where are you two now in your careers? I know currently we have on exhibit Women Alone, which is what's the driving force behind this conversation, 3 women talking. Where you are now in your career, we're going to be going for a break shortly, but when we come back, I want you to think about, while we're on break, where are you now in your career? And Shalana, I know you've done some incredible work, which I've loved also with public television here in the Virgin Islands, which have been an impressive body of work. And you and I have worked at the museum in Frederickstead doing
Remembrance pieces.
Portraits of St. Croix.
Right, yeah.
So when we come back,
Okay.
we'll talk about where you are now in your career. So we're going to go to break now, shortly, and
We'll see you when you get back.
we'll see you when you get back. Welcome back. It's so exciting for us to share this time with you. I'm Sonia Nahardeen, broadcasting live with Kalalloo Network. Ooh, Kalalloo is so good in the Caribbean to eat. Anywhere you are, you gotta try some Kalalloo. And Culture Television. And we are also being featured on the new show on Temple Network. To learn more, please go to www.kingrootsartgallery.com. We're now joining again. You're coming back and visiting with us. We have Nyaris Walker, but she's known as Nyaris. And we have Stephanie Shalana Brown. And again, I'm Sonia Nahardeen, welcoming you back. So when we left off, we were talking about where are you now in your careers?
Well, I've been an artist, an art educator for 25 years. And for the most part, I painted for my own pleasure and just to also build my skill set as I taught, because you have to know your content to teach.
Yes.
But now my artwork is being made for me. I finally come to a place where, when I say for me, in terms of building my artist career instead of like just painting because, I like painting or I was able to paint. I would like at this point, I know what I want to paint. I know what I want to say, and I'm working on that path right now to create artworks that speak to my statement, basically, which is creating works that speak to memory and experience. And I think for the most part, all art is memory and experience. But that came about for me from a medical experience that I had when I thought about what I have to say. There's actually importance in that, and that's what I've always been saying. And the reason I'm propelled to do it is because it needs to be said. And I've got a lot of feedback from people who say, your work is good and your work is important. And so that has really brought me to a place where now I want to continue to push and speak my experience and share my memories. And that's where I am right now.
Good. And Shivana, where do you think you are now? Because you said something very interesting things when we chatted before about where you are in your career, and I'd like you to share it with our audience, to our listening and visual audience, about where you are in your career. Because I think you probably could inspire a lot of young people.
Yeah, my journey is just really early. It's just starting. We were talking about yesterday. You don't start something at a certain age. It could be at any type of part of your life. So I'm not a young woman, and I just started my journey about 3 to 4 years ago. And so I worked as a journalist, and which is so funny because I still get in front of camera. I still get nervous. But I worked as a journalist, and they gave me the opportunity to produce more broadcast shows, which is what I really wanted to do. And so I had several shows on a local broadcasting station, and one of our artists, premier artists here in the Virgin Islands, Miss LaVon Bell, she had a show called Artists See, Artists Do. And at that time, I was dabbling around with photography. I was just taking portraits of like my family and friends, trying to understand the genre more. But I wasn't where I wanted to be. And the show literally opened me up to when you say artists see, artists do. The first person who was on the episode was Nayaris. So LaVon went to Nayaris's art space, and you always see the end result of somebody's work, and you're like, wow, but you never see you never get to talk to them or hands-on see what they go through. Sometimes there's frustration, which adds to the project, their thought process, and it also showed me that different mediums, all artists aren't the same, and the idea of art has changed, where traditionally art just meant that you painted or did sculptures, or I always thought of art as persons always using really fine brushes, and people are using their hands now. And through the process and seeing Nayaris talk about it and how she was using her personal experiences and her own ideas of a Caribbean person, especially under colonial rule, how that affects her work. And I was like, I feel like those same things too. As you stated, my family dates back to the Virgin Islands, emancipation, and then most people will know we're a disenfranchised place because we can't vote, and we're or under the jurisdiction of being American, which is positive and negative.
Yes.
And so there's things I wanted to say. So there's persons in a generation before me that had issues about citizenship, and so it all still is with me, and I carry those stories with me. And how do I express that?
Exactly.
Because you just build up, you're walking around, but as you said, there's people who are standing on your backs like that, made way for you. How do I become a vessel to express those stories? Like Stephen McQueen, he was put here to be a vessel to tell the stories He did that amazing series called Small Acts, talking about the Caribbean experience in Great Britain. He's a vessel. Those stories and those people laid down their lives to make it better for another group of people. And that's why I think artists do, like, we're supposed to be vessels to tell stories the best way we can. So my journey is still pretty new, where I'm utilizing art to tell the stories of the Virgin Islands, which we like to say Awi.
Awi. And it's spelled, and if I'm correct in the spelling, it's AHWE.
Yes.
Awi.
Awi.
And the three of us sitting here will be Awi.
Yes.
So are we this here people right here? Are we this here women right
yeah.
here? We're three women. So that's code.
Tree,
Code,
yeah.
Yeah, we code switching right there, not three.
Code switching.
Tree. I had so much, by the way, I had so much teasing when I got to the United States.
Really?
Oh my God, I couldn't say the word three to save my life. So the kids in school would tease me because I would say tree. But anyways, that's a sidebar.
That's so funny.
But your journey, and a journey which will continue, not to put words in your mouth, where you are in your career, it's that you're this photojournalist.
Yes.
I see, in terms of me, when I see you, in terms of being a journalist and what you're doing with your photography, and we're on Facebook friends. I'm always every day liking and loving something from you.
Right.
So I just really see you, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, you're on this photographer or this photojournalism at this time of your life. Am I correct?
No, you're right. You're right.
Great.
You're right.
And I admire your work.
No, thank
You
you.
know
I
that.
appreciate it.
I'd just like to add that I know photojournalism is a thing unto itself. But I
Yes.
think just making art in general is a type of journalism.
Yes.
Journaling, if you wish,
Yes.
right? Because it's a recording of your thoughts and ideas in a visual form, or whether it's as opposed to the literary form, a performance artist do it in
Yes.
performing. Because there are just things that you cannot write.
And you can't say.
Cannot
Yeah.
say. Because when I make my artwork, and I'm not sure, where we're gonna take this conversation next, but someone was asking me about it last night. So some of these pieces that are in here at the gallery were made with an idea in mind and a trajectory, but that doesn't mean that they always turned out the way I initially thought. Because they didn't finish in one day, I might have an experience in that week that actually found its way into the art.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the art tells you what it wants to
Yes,
be. You might
yes.
have, you have a little idea, a nugget of an idea, and it becomes this big thing that it has a life of its own. And I think any artist who works in art knows that. And I think that's why we continue to work.
I know that so well visiting your art gallery, your studio, because in Nyaris' studio, there is a huge piece on paper that it's not finished. And I'll keep going, and I think one day, maybe it'll be finished, or maybe she might have, she's done something totally different with it. But that's what happens, I think, when you have a chance to visit with an artist, and I do enjoy visiting her studio, because there's always something that I would find that we have a conversation about. And if you don't have a relationship with artists, try to form one, because it's just a whole different perspective. And I think I like my relationship with artists because I started collecting. I started collecting at 21. And that has been a very gratifying feeling. And being an art collector has led to me having this art gallery. So I'm able to share my passion for art with everybody else around.
And we appreciate you for giving us a space.
You're very welcome. You're
It's,
very welcome.
who are we artists without the supporters, without the patrons?
Yes.
Yes. Because we tell their stories as well,
Right.
like through us. Yeah.
Because they see it. If you see the work, it takes you back, it brings your memories, it brings your experiences. Again, back to what my whole premise is. A lot of the pieces Sonia has acquired for me were pieces that brought her back to experiences that she had, that she, that resonated with her. And that's why there's so many different artists, because we resonate with different people.
Yes.
On different levels
Yes.
too.
Uh-huh.
And so.
And it's good to, as Caribbean artists too, like sometimes we're like, we're in the shadow
That's
of, we're part of the African diaspora, but as American citizens as well. Our stories is often overshadowed by the African American story, and sometimes the Afro Caribbean story isn't at the forefront.
Right, and we're different.
Right. We're of the diaspora, but the
Yes, I
culture
mean,
is
we look
different.
the same, but the way we were brought up was different. Our experience, I mean, and you can see that from state to state, from city to city. But the Afro-Caribbean experience is different than the African-American experience.
Yes, it
That
is.
is a clear dichotomy there.
There is a difference of experience, and what we have to be careful about in that experience is being different. There's a difference that we still stay together.
Yes.
There has been a strong division within American culture
Yes.
to separate African Americans from Afro-Caribbeans. And then that has become a rift within the culture itself,
Okay.
having it in a position that one is better than the other. So I always have to remind people that there's always a need to understand African American culture. The process has been different and I'm going to give a props to Isabel Wilkinson, who wrote a book, The Warmth of Other Suns, and she deals with the migration of 4 different individuals from the South going north. And I think if all of us were to read that, again, we would have a better and stronger understanding for those types of migrations. We migrated, we as Caribbean people migrated to places like London, Canada, and the United States. So they migrated north. One of the things I wanted to move on are to 2 more pieces of yours before I get to another big question that I wanted to ask you. I think we did with Life Makes Lemon, trappings. Let's deal with trappings.
I wish I could remember the actual inspiration for trappings. I think trappings it's metaphoric really, although I like still lives, and so again, the word, just like Life Gives You Lemons, derived from my love of the genre of vanitas, where you...
Vanitas, so spell vanitas for us.
Vanits, which also, Vanitas, I'm sorry, that's the visualize that word again.
It was good for us to
Yes,
spell,
yes.
because as we do these sessions, art over bush tea, I really want our listening audience to understand the process of art and other genres of art that might have influenced each one of you.
I mean,
So thank you for explaining
being an
that.
art educator though, I really have a lot of influences, but the Vanitas is my favorite. I love the still life. The piece trappings came out of the whole concept again of us collecting things and being not, and also this idea that we have to be successful and being trapped by either relationships or our ideas about ourselves and our identity, or the things that we feel we need to have, or the things we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what that work is. Although the objects are there, it's a metaphor for that kind of need to be or to meet other people's expectations or to meet our own expectations. Instead of just living day by day,
Yeah. Well, just look at where we are in a pandemic with trappings. So we're going to explore that a little bit more when we come back. Again, I'm Sonia Nahardeen, coming live to you from Kalalloo Network. And the Muse, actually, we're also on the Muse on the Tempo. We're also Tempo Network, Kalalloo Network, and Culture Television. We are just, again, we're just, this whole thing about the Kalalloo Network is just a whole mix-up. Culture Television, Tempo Network, and to learn more about us, please go to www.kanerootsartgallery.com. We'll be right back. We're back with the two gracious and lovely women, Nyaras and Stephanie Shalana Brown. And we are live on Kalalloo Network and Culture TV. And we're also being featured on the Muse Show on Tempo Network. And you can learn more about us on www.kingrootsartgallery.com. Welcome back, everyone. We are going to, again, we ended the last period talking about, where we were, where each of you were in your careers. I'd like to talk about two more pieces. Did we finish talking about?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the girl with the madras head tie, Shalana.
That was one of my first pieces. For me, when it wasn't just taking a portrait of like a family and a friend and then you put it in an album, it was like the first time I started seeing that I could use the medium of photography as art and not just as portraiture. So that was the beginning of it. And of course, it's a play off of the girl with the pearl earring, right? So for me, madras is something that's like ingrained in my head because it's like an anomaly now where like we only see it when somebody's dancing quadrille. But when I was growing up, which is for some people not too long ago, women wore it like all the time. My grandmother wore it in the kitchen when she was turning fungi, and then I just start to see like even like candies that I ate, I just start seeing everything like weed away, like and not as a negative, but it was just like I felt. But of course, at that time, I couldn't. I didn't have the words for it as a young person. My own identity being like erased, and it was being replaced with American culture, and that's what I said. Through working on the program, or using myself as a vessel to show what identity is, because I also work in the education system, and the one thing I always heard about young people was, what is this identity you guys keep telling us about? And then I was like, really, like if I'm a woman of a certain age, and I was at the end of seeing it like go away, like what are they seeing? They can't touch, feel, see what it is. I think they all tend to see quadrille if they go to an event or a fair or something. And then I just recall like when I was younger, there was like a quadrille dance like every weekend.
Well, we used to have the St. Gerard's Hall, and that's gone now.
Yeah, and that's done. I haven't had a dance in a while. Of course, we also are in a pandemic.
Well, even before that, it's gone. So yeah, we are.
Yeah, and so just little erasure, and I just wanted to play a role in possibly. I don't even know if I have the ability to say that. Like, who am I? But
oh, I do. You absolutely do, and I think not only in your art form, I think the audience needs to know that you usher in. Not only do you do it in your art form,
right.
You also dress.
Mm-hmm.
I would say so many oftentimes that I see you are wearing a dress in some form of fashion, in pants and in a dress or something. You live and you work it. Yes. So I think not only is it in your artistic calling and then you're looking at it in terms of preserving it, I think you also stylize it. And in your stylizing it, I think it's making sure that we're walking in the memory, we're keeping the memory alive.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. When I didn't know about Frida Kahlo until like the big smash hit came out, the movie, and I looked her up and I saw that she was on the cover of Vogue, and Frida was really big on wearing her traditional wear from Mexico. And I was just like, if she saw the importance and relevance of staying true to herself and her identity, why don't I? You know what I mean? And so when I'm taking photos now and I'm doing a project called Squared, it's about the evolution of the Virgin Islands through fashion, photography and history. It's another type of like performance art. It's me going to places like we're here on Company Street. Company Street has always been one of the pride of downtown Christiansted in culture and identity. So I'm glad that you have your space here. And I go to locations that are significant to us, and I put on my fashion there, and it's just my simple way of like taking back my space, my identity. So
Absolutely.
it's my performance art.
I think you embody it well. I think it's you. You know, it's not a put on. You know, it's natural to who you are. And so it wears well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So Nayara, why don't we talk about the games?
Once, let's see. Janet could run it again. She did an exhibition. She does a transfer exhibition every couple of years. She would do that, and we had one. And I think Monica was the co-curator or curator of that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it had to do with, it's gonna hurt, kill me. I don't remember the name of it, but it was something transfer. It had to do with
Our transfer?
yeah, I was talking about the transfer of the Virgin Islands.
Oh, okay.
But it you know, and the piece, this piece actually was derived from a piece I did for that show called the Dead Men Playing Games. Because what happened to me, I'm not a born Virgin Islander, but I've been here since I was a kid. I went to elementary school, junior high school here. And when transfer came about, you know, I started doing a little bit more research and talking about things. And there was controversy about the celebrations around the centennial, right?
We're supposed to call
Centennial.
it observing
Right.
the observation of it.
Right. So I really had a visceral reaction when I thought, what if they wanted to sell these Virgin Islands again?
Nayara, we'll be right back on that thought.
Good question.
Actually, we'll be back in another month with Art Over Bush Tea. This has been an exciting conversation. We didn't get to some other very important works of art. I wanted to talk about the fabric that bind all wheat, but I'm sure we're going to deal with that at another time. We're going to post on the website the two pieces that we did not cover. We'll get it up on the website www.canerootsartgallery.com. It's been too short.
Yes.
I don't know where the time has gone, but I've enjoyed it, and I have to thank Stephanie Shalana Brown for bringing her art to us, and Nayara for doing the same. Thank you very much for sharing our very first show, Art Over Bush Tea. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was